So my job gets me some interesting places, and today's one of those that's hitting me kind of hard. So right behind me is the Tallahatchie River, and right here is a marker for where Emmett Till's body was found back in 1955. Now for me, it's one of those things that, I was a history teacher for many, many years, and it always makes me think of things from a perspective of history. And coming out here, for work, I get to travel lots of places, and I try to take in some history if I can. And today, it's one of those it's hitting me. And the history of Emmett Till was one of those things that, when I learned about it at age 20, it was one of those things that I kind of wondered, how did I not know this earlier? Because it's so important. I mean, it was for anybody that sees this that doesn't know, Emmett Till was a 14-year-old boy that came down here to Mississippi and visited family and said something he shouldn't have, which is often debated in history, but it may have just been as simple as a whistle. It may have been the words, "Hey baby," different options, depending on who you talk to. But for that transgression, he was brutally murdered. And behind me here in the Tallahatchie River, his body was recovered, tied with razor wire to a cotton gin. The racist history was apparent. And, standing here behind a sign that is still being shot up by white supremacists or KKK or somebody in this area who can obviously be callous enough to desecrate the memorial of a 14-year-old that was killed. It's making me reflect on kind of where we are today in this country, and kind of, the history that I always, made sure to talk about Emmett Till in my classes, because I'd never heard of it, and it was so shocking to me that I hadn't, because, again, being a young person, and then finding out that the two people that got off, and then, of course, who got away with it, and then, of course, the images that were taken because Emmett's mother decided to allow Jet Magazine to take images of an open casket funeral and show those to others, which in turn inspired Rosa Parks, which in turn inspired others. I mean, really, the civil rights movement from the 50s and the 60s that a lot of people are familiar with, you could argue, started right here. And that something very positive came out of something very negative. And those are always the stories I gravitated to when studying history, especially when I wanted to teach it and try to, think of things that would connect to students in a classroom. And yet, again, here we are, 2018, and racism and xenophobia is so much a part of modern politics that it almost makes you question, well, how far have we come? There's a part of me inside that wants to say not far, and yet there's a part of me that says, we've obviously come a long way. There's some things that have changed, but as I was thinking about it driving out here into this incredibly remote area, what I was thinking about was, at a time when we've got such, again, a president who's an open racist, and yes, I know some people seeing this are going to say, no, he's not. He's absolutely not. He's just fighting for things that everybody wants, or he's doing things about legality and it has nothing to do with race. Well, no. When a person runs a campaign saying that they want to ban an entire religious group from coming to this country, that is literally the definition of racism. And for those that would say, that's not it, keep in mind the guy that's his lawyer went on TV and said, we're going to figure out how to legally do this even though we can't actually ban an entire religious group. And now you've got countries they picked, Muslim majority countries, that they've now banned people from to back that up and support it. You have injustice after injustice for people that are, African American in this country, whether it is violent encounters with police, whether it is, issues in schools that are available, discipline in schools, discrimination in the job place. There's all sorts of things that still to this day are the legacy of the original sin of this country. Original sin. I'm not a religious person anymore. But I was Catholic long enough to understand the concept of original sin, which is, that we're inherently born with a sin that took place in the Garden of Eden, and we have to spend our lives atoning for that. And while I don't believe that from a personal or a spiritual standpoint, I very much believe that from a cultural and a societal standpoint. This country was founded in our original Constitution with 3 passages that supported making a certain group of people property. And to justify that, we had to refine our own version of racism, which established a superior white class in this country. And the legacy of that is very much still with us. And this country, much like, again, in the spiritual sense, the belief is you have to atone for the original sin. We really haven't. And you see in today's day and age where people are, saying that overtly racist actions and words are not actually racist. So again, going back to the point of how far have we come, it seems like, people know that being racist is bad. That doesn't mean they want to stop being racist, but they know that being racist is bad. And how do you convince people of something that is the truth, when it's staring you straight in the face? It's hard to comprehend it, how people don't want to get it. And yet, I guess it's not. Because, let's be honest, we all want to be special. We all want something that makes us special. And some people work at it, some people have natural ability, some people have skills they've worked and refined, and some people just don't. And some people, it's just your skin color in this country was enough to get you by. And that's the absolute truth. And now we live in a time where that is changing. See, this I mentioned the, American version of racism evolved to justify slavery, which established a white class that was kind of the ruling class. Well, that had to evolve because at first it was, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant landowners, and then it expanded because that group was getting outnumbered, and it kept expanding, and other groups had to be assimilated. My Italian and Irish and Catholic heritage, they were all discriminated against back in the day, but it evolved over time because if they'd have held to the original categorization of the group, they would have been outnumbered a long time ago. But the reason I think we're hitting a lot of this strife right now in 2018 is that really can't happen anymore. Within a few years' time, this country is going to be majority people that are not white, and that's causing a lot of anxiety for people. Whether they want to acknowledge it or not, it is. And you see that in the current policies that is an overreaction to progress that has been made. And, you see people say, I look at a lot of people that are centrist or liberal or left or whatever ridiculous label you want to throw at it, and they say, how do people believe that Donald Trump is doing anything? Well, he's not doing much as far as creating new things, but he's undoing a lot. Looking for ways to decimate the Department of Education, which was created as a way to allow for a leveling of the playing field. Reducing the role of, equal opportunity employment, which was created because of the overt discrimination that was there, and it's still present in the hiring in the workplace. And trying to prevent people from coming into this country. Unfortunately, xenophobia, along with racism, is as American as apple pie. This country has always kind of had a group come and then discriminate against the next group, and it just is a continuation of that. It just happens to be the turn for people that are Latino at this point. And I get it. Somebody's going to watch this and say, it's all about legality. They just have to come the right way. I'm sorry, it's not about legality. And because now the movement and the policy is about pushing people out of the military. People that are willing to sacrifice their lives to serve, to protect this country, are now being pushed out for the sake that they're immigrants. People that have legally come through the process are getting new rules put on them that are making it harder to actually become citizens. They were doing it the legal way, but now they're being punished for that. That should show that it's not about legality. And of course, it completely glosses over the idea of amnesty and that people are coming here to escape something that is bad. It also glosses over America's role in 50-plus military interventions in South America that have destabilized places, and yet we still don't want to have a reckoning over what we did south of the border. We don't want to have a reckoning about the racist history of this country. There are some memorials that go up that celebrate what the South did to people, and there are other memorials that go up that are the targets of violence. It's frustrating to live through these times, but it's telling. And I guess I'd say this to anybody watching this about, I'm advocating, step away from support of the people that are in charge, and the reason is simple. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.